Hello everybody, I am Brandon Luger, aka Sherpa. Got that nickname from a bunch of buddies I got for wearing this silly big blue hoodie blanket thing. So now I am known as Sherpa. Cool. I am a low stakes poker grinder and I play professionally. Based out of Indianapolis, so the main source I play at is the Horseshoe Indianapolis down in Shelbyville. Great room, beautiful room, just opened up last year. This is a brand new adventure to me. I'm excited to get it going. I'm happy that you all are here with me. So without further ado, let's get on down to the felt.
So our camera's a little behind here, but our pre-flop actions are under the gun makes it 15, and we 3-bet to 50 with 2 jacks, and right in the window right away we have the jack of diamonds, followed by the 5 of diamonds and 9 of spades. Our under the gun player checks to us like we would typically expect. We check it back for a little bit of deception, and there's not much he can really call with at this point. So we go ahead and see a turn, which is the 9 of clubs. We are boated up. Better yet, our under the gun player is betting into us for 65. We could think about a raise here, but a raise might draw away some of the draws he might have, so I think the best course of action is just a straight call. And we are going to a river with $234 in the pot, and we see the king of spades. Not fantastic, as in a 3-bet pot he might have kings, but I think it might be a 4-bet pot if he does, so I'm still feeling really comfortable, and he makes it $90. Now, we have to think about here because we want to raise and we want to actually get called at this point. So, with 234 in there and he makes it 90, we're thinking about 3 times ish, maybe a little bit less. So, we go ahead and make it 225, begging for a call. It's not a snap right away. He thinks about it for a little bit here and there. And at this point, I'm saying in my head, call, call, call. And better yet, he ends up making the call. So we go ahead and turn our hand over and show the goods. He says, how do you have a jack? Meaning he must have ace jack, maybe even king jack, hitting him 2 pair on the river. And better yet, we get paid taking down a pot of about $700. Not a bad way to start the beginning of our session. Comes in a straddled pot, and the under the gun +1 makes it 15. We're going to want to play for a little bit more, so we bump it up to $45 from the cutoff position. The button kind of thinks about it for a little bit, maybe contemplating a 3-bet, ends up just making the flat call off of a 3-bet. Kind of suspicious, but we'll keep an eye on that. Everybody else is folding around. Button, the straddler wants to play. Aggressive player ends up making the fold, and we're going to end up going heads up to this flop with $115 in the pot. Flop comes 10 of clubs, 5 of hearts, and 4 of diamonds. We have ace high, but we want to represent it may be an overpair, maybe a flop set, so we go ahead and downsize a little bit as we would with any of those holdings, just for a little bit of value. Our button thinks about it for a little bit and ends up making the call. Now we kind of put him on maybe jacks, maybe a pocket pair more than likely. If he has a flop set, I highly doubt he's just going to flat call here very much. And we hit the ace of diamonds on the turn. Big for our hand. But if he does have a flop set and he's just slow playing it, we want to give him a chance to bet into us. We do only have top pair out as it is, so we want to check here. Maybe a little pot control. Plan is to check call. I don't want to check raise right this moment. He did make it 125 into a 195 pot, which is pretty big sizing, so I don't necessarily want to raise because that's a pretty big. Maybe ace 10, I doubt it. Set of 10s, possibly. So we're just going to end up making the call here. Now the river comes the 3 of spades. Now it's 4 cards to a straight. It's highly unlikely he has a 2. I'm still pretty sure I had the best hand here, but I'm not really going to get called by much worse if he does have queens or jacks or 9s, 8s. And if he has 10s, I'm just giving him more money. So I go ahead and check here. Planning to check call to kind of determine where he's at. Ends up just checking behind. We show our ace king, and we end up taking out a $445 pot. And our next interesting hand comes once again with everybody's favorite hand, pocket jacks. If we are under the gun, we go ahead and make it 12. A very active player from the cutoff decides to call us. And then once it gets around to the small blind, he decides 12 is not enough. He wants to make it 55. Now this has been a very active three betting table so far in this 1-3 match stack game. So I'm not really thinking I'm behind here. I'm just trying to think of the best way moving forward in a potential multi-way pot with pocket jacks. So I go ahead and just make the call because 4 betting, only getting called by better, and I'm not going to fold to just 1-3 bet here. So we go ahead and make the call here. Cutoff decides to join us. So it is a 3-way pot with $168 in the middle, and we see a flop of King of Hearts, 6 of Hearts, 9 of Spades. That's a pretty draw heavy board right there. Little nervous about the king because very easily small blind could have ace king here. I'm not really putting cutoff on ace king, maybe king queen at best, but it's a very draw heavy board, so it go ahead and checks to us, which makes me think if small blind had something that was really worth 3 betting with, they would have continued on this kind of board. But we don't know what the cutoff's going to do, so we check, and the cutoff makes it $115. Small blind is just sitting there contemplating what their next move should be. They don't look too comfortable. They end up actually wanting to show their hand to the person next to them on the other side of the table, and which makes me think they weren't that strong in the first place. So now it's, what does the cutoff have? 115 into 168 is a pretty big sizing. I've seen this player do this with a lot of draws and a lot of not exactly super strong hands at the moment, but also likes to just take the pot then and there. So I think my second pair could still very well be good. So I make the call at 115. So going heads up to a turn of a pot of now $398, we see the 9 of clubs. Pairing the board, which doesn't change a whole lot. Ace King is still ahead, King Queen still ahead. There's still a lot of draws now, but now if they're in a hard draw with a pair, they just tripped up on us and caught up on our jacks. But the player now asks us, do we have any more blacks? We say not anymore, and he immediately checks. Makes me think it was a draw, but the ace of spades comes on the river, which is better for our range as the initial aggressive preflop, but we're still not going to be able to bet and get called by it a lot worse. So we go ahead and check, where the cutoff then announces, I can't beat you. Flip over my pocket jacks with authority, and I win about a $400 pot. They ended up having queen 10 of hearts, so they had a gut shot and a flush draw on the flop. So our read of a good draw was right, but I'm not extracting a whole lot of value unless we want to go crazy. Our next hand here comes on the button with ace king offsuit. Our table's a little short-handed right now, so I make it 10 as an open because if I make it 15, they're more likely to just say fold and move on to the next hand. I wanted some action, so I make it 10, and just like I thought, big blind comes in with the call. We got a flop of 10 of hearts, 9 of hearts, 9 of clubs. So we go ahead and make it 10 after small or big blind checks, and he quickly calls, which makes me think he's probably on a draw with that type of board, and the ace of diamond comes on the turn. Yes, we got our top pair, so we go ahead and bet $15. Big blind wants to think about it a little bit more, wants to think maybe is the draw worth it. Go ahead, yeah, put it in there. Yep, he makes the call. Now we're going to a river where we get the 3 of spades. No draws get in. He checks again to us, and we go ahead and say we want all the money we can get. We make it 35, which was a mistake because now big blind almost quickly just makes it 90. Why didn't we just check? What exactly are we trying to make call us that we beat? A smaller ace, a 10 maybe that's trying to get tricky, that just didn't believe we had an ace. None of it really makes sense because now it's like he would probably play the same way with a 9. The only reason I bet 35 was because if I thought he had trips, I thought he would bet into us on the river because it's such an easy board to check back on. Why did I do this to myself? I'm trying to think of, okay, maybe weaker aces, missed draw that's trying to get tricky, a 10 that's trying to get tricky. I get stubborn. I can't help myself. I want to see what he has. It's a newer player at the table. I haven't really seen him show a hand yet. I'm thinking I can beat a lot of aces. I can beat 10s. I can beat missed flush draws. I can beat missed straight draws. Oh, well, I already put myself in this hole enough. So I go ahead and grab a $100 chip. I flick it in there. He says 9. Dang it. He has king 9 off for flop trips. Our ace king gets cracked. Should have just checked behind. And we are on to our next hand where we look down at 7-9 of diamonds. We have the player in the small blind buying the button, so they're in there, and we have one limper. And then the player to our right makes it 20. We decide to go ahead and throw in the call there, and our limper jumps in as well. So we're going 3 ways to a pot of $64 with our 7-9 of diamonds, and we spank it. It is 7 of spades, 7 of hearts, 6 of spades. We have trips. We are jacked up. Better yet, our pre-flop aggressor is quickly betting 40 into us. We think, I doubt he has a draw, maybe an overpair, maybe ace king, continuing just on any type of board. And with position, we go ahead and just make the call. The turn is the 5 of clubs. We are now heads up. And once again, he's betting pretty quickly into us for $65. Again, I'm not really putting him on any type of draw, so I think I just have the best hand. He probably has an overpair. And we go ahead and just call this 65 because we've seen this opponent just now quickly fire into us twice. No need to raise now and scare anything off. Let him keep firing. River is the king of hearts. Now our player decides to check it, which means ace king's probably out of there, maybe a pocket pair below that. Either way, I think we have the best hand, and I want to go about half pot or so to try to get as much value, and I want him to call. So I go ahead and stick in 125. He thinks about it for about 2 seconds and then just flicks the chips in. We go ahead and show our 3 of a kind. He says nice hand, and we take down a $500-ish pot. Pretty good one. And we are on to our next fun hand of Queen 10 of spades in the cutoff. We go ahead and open this one up for $11. Our button decides to stick around for the 11. Our small blind decides to stick around for the 11, and the big blind folds. So we're going 3 ways to a flop with $36 in the middle. And we see a flop of 2 of hearts, 8 of clubs, 4 of spades. Not a very pretty flop for our hand, but we go ahead and try a continuation bet here with $15. Our button just thinks it over and puts in the 15, and our small blind puts in the 15 as well. Not loving that. We're going to reevaluate here on the turn, where we see a jack of hearts. Better for our range, as we see a face card here. It gets checked to us. We decide to go ahead and bet $35 to continue our story here. Just try to take the pot down now. We do pick up a gut shot straight draw here. Our button doesn't really think about it too long. Already starts counting out calling chips, cuts it all out and puts it in there. Not loving that. We're going to need something, a little bit of help here. There's now 2 hearts on the board, and on the river we see an ace of hearts. Bringing in a backdoor flush, the ace is way better for our range. And at this point, we have queen high. Only way we can win this pot really is by making him fold. Ace is really good for our range. Backdoor flush is pretty good for our range. So in order to try to win this pot, we're going to go ahead and put in a bet of 105. And our button doesn't really even think about it and just quickly folds face up of Jack 10 offsuit. So interesting float on the flop and hits his jack and make him fold on the river with some aggression. Nice. And we are on to the start of another session where we look down at pocket 10s. Lovely. But what we don't like is an elderly gentleman opening the pot for $10. We've seen him play a couple of hands. He limps a lot. This is the first time I've ever really seen him raise, but we want to isolate because we don't want to go multi-way too much with 10s. So we make it 35 and he quickly calls. So we are now going heads up to a pot of $74 where we see ace of diamonds, 4 of hearts, 9 of diamonds. He checks over to us. We're not too scared of an ace, kind of fits our range, so we downsize a little bit, make it look like we want to call. We bet 20, and he looks really uncomfortable. Really does not like his hand as much as he used to, but he still flicks in the call. Kind of makes me think he has kings, queens, jacks maybe. We see a king of hearts on the turn. He checks it on over to us, which I think this is still a good card for us. Don't really put him on a draw, but we can represent the aces and the kings better than he can. So we make a bet of $50. He doesn't think too very long. He's still pretty uncomfortable. He actually folds face up a pair of pocket queens. So we were right with our prediction there that the ace was better for us than it was for him. We win with aggression, get an elderly player to go ahead and fold their better hand to us. Nice. Next hand we play, we look at Jack 10 off from the big blind, and middle position makes it 10. Button and small blind both call, so we go ahead and throw in the defense call here. Small blind's going to dark check, and we look at a flop of 5-5-4 with 2 diamonds. That kind of hits our range pretty well, but we check to the pre-flop aggressor, who makes it 25 fairly quickly. Button's going to fold, and small blind's going to follow suit. And since this hits our range so much better, we don't really have a very good hand to continue seeing much more here. We want to go ahead and 3-bet and take this down now, because there's not a lot he can be super happy with when he sees a big blind 3-bet here. So we're going to make it $60. He doesn't think too long before folding. He actually folds his hands face up, and it's going to be pocket sixes. So not a bad board for his hand particularly, but with our aggression and our range, we go ahead and take down an easy one fairly quick. On to one of my favorite hands I've played in a while. I'm looking at 7-8 of diamonds under the gun in a straddled pot. We make it 16, and our buddy Nick right to our left snap calls and announces snap call. He doesn't really do that very often, so I'm already intrigued by what he might possibly have. The rest of the table decides to fold, get into the straddle, who another one of our buddies says, you guys have to be in there. He goes ahead and calls as well, so we're going 3 ways to a flop. That is the 8 of clubs, 3 of diamonds, 6 of spades. We hit top pair. We got a dark check in front of us. We like our top pair. We got $50 in the pot, so we go ahead and bet $20,
All eyes on you.
which again, Nick's snap calls, something he does not do very often. So I really, he had it on hand. It's hard to put him on anything right now, really. Our turn comes, and it is the 4 of diamonds. So we pick up a straight draw with our 7 and 2 diamonds. So we have a straight draw, flush draw, and top pair. We like it. We make it 35. He snap calls again. What? Right now I'm putting him on a hand that really can't fold. Maybe like 9s, maybe 10s, maybe as good as jacks. And he wants to play it sneaky. Maybe 5s, maybe 7s with a pair and a straight draw out there. Either way, river comes a 3 of clubs, now paired the board. We don't really love our hand, because I really think Nick actually is ahead of us right now. But if we check, I think he just checks behind and we lose. So we bet half pot, thinking we really don't want to call, but if he does, maybe he has something like 5s or 7s that got sticky, and because he has the straight draw as well. But I'm really putting him on something like 9s or 10s, and I really don't want to call. Nick's a very good, experienced player. He knows what he's doing. I'm banking on that, because 9s and 10s definitely should be finding a fold here with how aggressive I've been this entire pot, and he is in the tank. Right now, I genuinely do not want to call, because I think we just end up losing, and he's sitting it over. He's talking about how much he really doesn't think he can call. So I already right now I'm excited I made the right sizing at the very least. If I go too crazy, he might just call out of stubbornness. If I go too small, it's easy size pot for him. I go right there in the middle. It's sort of emerged, but it's more of like I just don't want him to call. He actually shows his hand, and it is pocket 10s. Kind of spot on. He played it in a weird way. If he takes his time on any of the streets, I think he just ends up winning the hand, but because he was snap calling, that's out of his norm, we end up taking down a pretty big size pot here with bluff. Our next interesting hand that we decided to play, we have 6-3 of diamonds from the button. We get a couple of limpers going around, and we decided to go ahead and limp in as well, seeing as we have position and suited cards. Sure. Small blind decides no more limping, makes it 15, or our hijack decides to call, our big blind folds, and our cutoff thinks about it and folds. Okay. We're in position. We got suited cards. We got low ones that think if we hit, we're probably good. So let's go ahead and play this one out. We look at a flop of Jack of Diamonds, King of Spades, 10 of Diamonds. So boom, we hit our flush draw. Nice. Our small blind action on him is going to go ahead and decide to make it $20. We have a flush draw. We're not really going to be going anywhere. Our middle position folds fairly quickly, and with the flush draw, we can't just fold for one bet here, so we're going to make this call at $20. We go to a turn heads up, and we see the 7 of diamonds. Bingo, we make our flush. Our small blind decides to check to us this time, and seeing as we got to our flush, and we aren't that big of a flush, we want to pay to see if another diamond comes out. We want to make him pay for it. So we go ahead and bet 45, about half pot here. Small blind doesn't think too long, and he goes ahead and throws in the call, hoping for a non-diamond river. And we go ahead and see the 7 of clubs pairing the board. Not too great, but we can't be scared of a set. I don't think he plays this like he did. If he did have a set, we still have a flush. We want to make him pay for it. Any type of 1 pair, 2 pair type hands maybe. So we go ahead and make it a little less than half pot because in case he does have a higher flush, we don't want to lose too much. We make it $80 and he snap calls. We tell him flush, he says we're good. He shows his hand for 8-9 spades. He had a straight on the turn when we hit our flush, and we get, I think, max value out of this hand. Nice. And we enter our last hand of our session. We are in a straddled pot, so we make it $20 from under the gun. It folds around to our small blind, who is a younger gentleman. Hasn't played a lot of hands, played pretty tight, pretty straightforward, not a lot of raising, not a lot of craziness, but he decides $20 is not enough. He puts in the 3-bet all the way up to $60, folds around pretty quickly to us. We have a pair. We could think about maybe 4-betting here with nines. They're pretty strong. But with a 3-bet from small blind, we're in position. We have a pair. We're not going to fold, so we're just going to make the call here. So we're going to enter in heads up into a $129 pot in position, and we see a flop of 6 of diamonds, 8 of clubs, 3 of spades. We have an overpaired to the board now. No real draws really available for either of us. He thinks it over for a minute and just says $70. We have an overpair. We don't really like where we're at. He's showing a lot of strength, but that size into a pot of 130-ish, it says he's strong, but he's a little scared to me. So I'm wondering where I'm at. Can't really fold with an overpair to the board though. So we're gonna go ahead and throw in a call here for the $70 and reevaluate on turn. We do make a call. Turn comes out the Ace of Hearts. Pretty interesting card for our board so far. Our small blind thinks it over for a couple seconds and then actually checks to us. It kind of goes along with my thought process on the flop that he's strong but scared. So now I'm putting him on something like queens, kings, maybe jacks that would 3-bet pre, but doesn't necessarily like the ace. He could have ace king and just want to play a little trickier right now. So being a little nervous, I have plans on taking it away on the river. I go ahead and check. Well, our plans go out the window because we don't have to take anything away anymore. We river the 9 of hearts. We now have second set, only losing really to set of aces, a weird 5-7 and a weird 7-10 that make a straight. But we have second set. We like it a lot. It checks over to us. We were planning on going ahead and shoving because there's already 270 in the pot. He only really has 250. So a GM really kind of is polarizing because I could have the nuts or I could have literally nothing. Because my plan already was to go ahead and jam, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and it's putting him in a blender. He does not look comfortable at all. If he had ace king, I think it's a pretty quick call. He might have ace king still. I doubt it though with the double checks from the turn in the river once the ace actually does come about. I'm putting him on now really kings or queens. Jacks are strong and might 3-bet like that pre, but the way he was playing, I think he might play it a little slower. I'm just thinking he has kings or queens. And with him tanking the way he is right now, if I didn't hit my 9, I still make this play. I'm very proud because I think he finds about the same situation. It's going to make a really, really, really hard call for him. There is no draw that got there besides 5-7 and 7-10. Really, those hands wouldn't be there at a 3-bet pot anyway. So what can I have? I could have ace king, I could have eights, I could have nines, and that's about it. So he's in the blender now thinking, does he have those hands? And he's rechecking his cards a lot. I think he's finally found a really good hand of kings or queens, and he's having a hard time letting it go. So this would have been a really, really good bluff had we have needed to. But because we hit the 9 of hearts, we're actually screaming in our head, call, call, call. But we want to make it look like we're bluffing as much as possible, so we are stone-faced, holding our breath, trying to make ourselves look as uncomfortable as possible, staring at a single spot on the board, not making eye contact with anybody, just trying to make it look like my body language is screaming, please don't call, please don't call. When in reality, I want him to call. And I think it'd be really, really, really tough call for him. And he thinks he'd probably be making a hero call because I got the camera out. I'm doing it for the vlog. I might be making a move to try to show my viewers or whatever that I can make this kind of crazy bluff against a newer player. But no, in reality, I kind of just want him to call. He mulls it over more and more and more and more, and I really don't think he's going to end up calling. He keeps checking his cards, and he ends up making the fold. He asked me later as I'm walking out what I had this hand. I told him I had the set of nines on the river. He told me he had kings. So my bluff would have worked if I needed to, but because I didn't need to, unfortunately, he found the correct fold at the right time, and we take down the last pot of our session, which is going to be the last pot of our vlog as well. And I appreciate y'all for sticking around with me. Thank you.
Well, that's going to do it, everybody. Thank you for watching all the way through with me. This is the end of vlog number 1 for Sherpa. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. That would mean a lot and keep this adventure of mine going in the right direction. Leave a comment with any questions of how I played a hand or how you think I could have played a hand differently. I'm very open to criticism as long as it's constructive criticism. If you're just going to attack me for being dumb or stupid, I get it. I am dumb and stupid, but that makes zero progress. Let's keep this thing moving forward so not just me, but every single one of us can improve as a poker player. And I'm excited to see where this whole adventure of mine goes. And I'm excited that you guys are here with me and able to see my progress as I go, not only with my poker playing, but also my editing skills as well. So thanks for enjoying this first video with me. Looking forward for the second one. Sherpa out.